ألا من كنت مولاه فهذا علي مولاه. اللهم وال من والاه وعاد من عاداه.
When I was growing up, I grew up as a Christian. My mother, she was actually Catholic. My father, he was a Baptist. And my grandmother, she was a Jehovah's Witness. So I was exposed to all of the different denominations of Christianity. And when I was growing up, we didn't really go to church too much or often or anything like that. I more or less went to church with some of my friends. And I found myself going to like Seventh-day Adventist church mostly. They celebrate the Sabbath on Saturdays, and they don't eat pork or anything like that. So it's kind of similar to the Muslim lifestyle and things like that. So that was pretty much my upbringing. I was baptized as a Christian when I was a baby, Baptist Christian, but wasn't really practicing any type of religion inside of the household or anything like that. I started to think about other ideas when I had a brother that was in college and he was going to a theology class. And when he went to the class, he started to learn about all of the different religions, and it started to open up my mind. And I was having a conversation with him one day, and he basically said that Muslims believe in the same God as the Christians, but they just don't believe that Jesus is God. And when he said that to me, it really struck a chord in me, like hit me right in the heart, because I felt like that was the similar belief to what I had. So from there, I started to do more investigations. I wanted to figure out, like, what is this religion? Because just to be quite honest with you, like growing up, I didn't really know much about Islam. I didn't really have too many Muslim friends. And most of the people that I did figure out that were Muslim after taking Shahada, they weren't really practicing Muslim. So they weren't the people to really expose me to the religion. So I started to think to myself, like, where can I find Muslims? Where can I actually get exposed to Islam? So at this time, I was working at a job. I had one friend, his name was Mo, and I had another friend, his name was Ali. And, Mo, he was really shy about his religion. He wasn't really up forward or talking about it too much. I mean, I knew he was Muslim because I knew that Mo was short for Muhammad, but he wasn't really actively, I wouldn't say propagating the religion, but he wasn't really firm on the religion. So I went to the brother Ali because he was really strong about the religion. People used to make fun of him because his wife wore the veil and all of this kind of stuff. And I thought that that was like strong because she's wearing the veil and she's basically, representing Islam. She's a representation. And he was always, eating halal food and just being really true to the religion. So I went to Ali and I asked him, I said, hey, is there any way that you can like take me to a mosque because I want to get more information about Islam? And then he said, yeah, for sure, brother. Come to the mosque tonight. And then he gave me the address. And that night I did not make it to the mosque. I don't know, for whatever reason, I just didn't make it. But the brother was persistent and he kept reaching out to me. And I think it was maybe the next night that I ended up going to the masjid, and it just happened to be like the last day of the month of Ramadan. And I met with a scholar named Said Abadi, and he ended up taking me to his office. He gave me some books on Salat, and he also gave me some books on prophethood and imamate and all of that kind of stuff. And that was my first exposure to Islam. It had a profound impact on me. And I remember him telling me that, if Islam is not something that works out for you, just remember that like Jubilee is right across the street. And Jubilee was like a big Christian church, right? So I started to read these books. The first thing I wanted to learn is that the actual prayers. So I started to read the prayers. I wasn't able to fully recite them, but I was reading the books on how to pray. And then I started to read about prophethood, and then I started to read about imamate and things like that. And it really had a profound effect on me. It was like, I would say that the biggest impact that I had was learning about Prophet Muhammad and learning about who he actually was, not from a standpoint of a biased point of view, but learning about Prophet Muhammad, the way that he was, the way that he treated his family, and the way that he was so into his religion and the way that he propagated. It just made me want to be like Prophet Muhammad. And I think that was like the most profound effect. And then also I would say just learning about Tawheed in general. Tawheed, that principle was something that I didn't know about growing up. I didn't know about the oneness of Allah, and Allah being something that is not visible or seen, but just being all powerful, omnipresent, and things like that. So I would say that, the Tawheed at that point, and then also the Prophet Muhammad and his status and who he was. Those were the two things that really started to draw me even closer to Islam at that point. From there, I just kept getting more books I was reading. I would say probably for like 4 or 5 months, I was just reading and just getting more knowledge about the deen and about, the beliefs of the religion. And since I had gone to a Shia mosque, that was like my first exposure. So I was learning a lot about the imams, and then I would be going to the masjid and participating even though I hadn't taken my shahada. So I would say that after just a lot of reading and just working with some people that were kind of like mentoring me, they would like give me dhikr beads and give me prayer rugs and like kind of like guide me a little bit. And I had a particular friend named Ali. It was a different Ali, but it wasn't the same one that I was working with. But he was kind of like mentoring me, guiding me, teaching me about halal food and just teaching me about, the Ahlul Bayt and all of that kind of stuff. And then eventually he just asked me like, hey, so are you ready to go take Shahada? Are you ready to become a Muslim? And I said, yes, I think I'm ready to become Muslim. So then we went back to the masajid. I met with Sayyid Abidi again. It was just the three of us. And then I ended up actually taking my Shahada and becoming Muslim. It's kind of funny the way that my family reacted to it because my mother, she didn't react too badly to it or anything like that, even though she was from a Catholic upbringing. And my father, he actually wanted to become a Muslim when he was 16 years old. They had a mosque inside of the city that we used to live in, and my dad actually started going to that mosque, but his mother was a really firm Christian and she wouldn't allow it, so she threatened to kick him out of the house and things like that. So because of that, my father was really receptive. My mother was pretty receptive. I know that most of the time, in these situations where people convert to Islam, it's pretty, it's not really a good scenario. Most of the time people are really opposed to it and they get really offended by, the conversion. But my parents were pretty accepting and they didn't really take it too hard at all. I would say that Shiism was a lot more attractive to me because of the fact that, it felt like the complete message, right? Like when you study religion, because the more that I got into Islam, the more that I studied the origins of all religion. And I feel like everything was Islam, but Shia Islam in particular is the full complete package, right? Because if you really think about, the religion, Abraham is like the father of the religion. And then, the Imams, they come from that same lineage. And they even have verses in the Quran that talk about, how Abraham, he prayed to have his lineage be purified, and that purification continued through the Imams. So I figured that, the way that I see things is that Islam is not complete without Shiism, because Shiism is the continuation of that same message that came from Abraham, and it's the lineage that keeps it pure. Because even me myself, not growing up as a Muslim, I realized that when you have friends or whatever, companions, those people they're not going to know everything about your lifestyle or about what you did or about, your way, so to speak, right? So it's the same thing like with the sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wasallam. Like the Prophet, the people that know his sunnah are going to be his family members, like Imam Ali, who lived inside of the house with the Prophet from the time that he was 5 years old, went to the cave of Hira, was there when the revelation came down and all of those type of things. And this is the purification of the message, because if you have someone that was there when the message was delivered, the first person that actually accepted Islam after Khadijah, this is how the religion is always going to be maintained. And when you really look at the lineage of prophethood in general, it was always through the line of family members after family members, and that's how it was passed down. So I don't feel like companions, in my point of view, is just not it's not really a legitimate thing. And we all know the situation of how things transpired after the death of the Prophet. After I became Muslim, I did get backlash from other family members and things like that, not my parents immediately or anything like that. And it was just a big transition for me. The way that people, treated me at work differently, and just just having to adapt to living a different lifestyle, like going to my parents' house. Like we normally would have traditional meals that we would have. And before, like, you know, for Christmas and things like that, you know, they would go there, open up presents, have traditional meals and things like that. And I couldn't participate in any of those type of things anymore because I wasn't able to eat the food. I didn't practice the holidays or anything like that. So I think that was the hardest transition for me, was like just separating myself from all the previous you know, occasions that I used to participate in with the family, and them kind of not being used to me not participating in that and just seeing me on a different path. I think that was really, really difficult in the first few years, and it really took a lot of adjusting, and it's just something that it took a while to really adapt to. I would say my life changed dramatically. You know, before I became Muslim, I actually did music. So I used to have songs with like Snoop Dogg and E40 and all of these popular rap artists. And I was doing music professionally. I had my own record label, but that type of lifestyle is just not really a good lifestyle to live. There's a lot of things that are associated with that type of lifestyle. So when I came to Islam, I was able to get myself cleaned up from that lifestyle in general. I used to have like long dreadlocks, and I used to have gold teeth, a lot of different things that are characteristics of people that would be like a quote unquote gangster or something like that. It's probably the image that people perceive me with. But, you know, just coming to Islam and being able to accept the religion and the Ahlul Bayt, I felt like I was with a pious group of people that really helped me to shape myself up and to just go to a higher level and just build up my character. Just every single aspect of my life has gotten better. And I just see so many blessings coming from it. And also just the upbringing of my kids. I have 6 kids now that are all, you know, practicing the religion and things like that. So it's been a huge impact because, you know, if I would have stayed on that path and I wouldn't have, you know, became Muslim, then who knows where I would be right now. You know, there could have been a totally different fate for me. And now I have, you know, Islam is a way of life. So now I have this way of life that I've adopted, that I'm, you know, teaching my children at the same time, and they're actually being born into. So it makes a huge difference, and it's definitely helped me in all areas of my life. And I feel like, you know, I don't even know what I would be without Islam at this point. After I converted, when I went back to work, you know, the same brother who I told you about, Mo, he was one of the first people who approached me, and there was other Muslims that approached me. It was really the Muslims that approached me more than the Christians did, because they basically were mad because I became Shia. They were like, hey brother, like you became a part of like a rogue sect, and these people are not really Muslim. They don't practice Islam. They believe in this and they believe in this. And they were like acting like they were like really, really scared. Like, what did I get myself into? So I think that was the worst reaction, is what I got from the Muslims themselves. They were really attacking me, and they would come to me every single day, and basically all of a sudden they wanted to propagate, but it was a little bit too late for that, and I already had made my decision. So I would say that was one of the biggest things. I didn't really get any scrutiny from my boss or from any of my other co-workers, but it was just the other Muslims in general that were kind of attacking me and belittling me and things like that. I would say that, you know, me being an African American, when I looked at my history, like that was one of the things that I looked at before I actually started to embrace the idea of becoming Muslim. I started to look at Africa and like, what is the religion that they practice? And I started to realize that 50% of Africa is actually Muslim. And then I started to do more research, and I figured out that most of the people that had been put in the slave ships, that actually came from West Africa. So there was a connection there. And they said that a lot of the Africans, they would actually write in Arabic in the sand and things like that. That's how they used to, like, you know, pass messages back and forth and things like that. So a lot of those West Africans, they were actually Muslims. So like when I did my my DNA testing, I figured out that I was 70% West African. So my lineage comes from those same areas. So I figured that when I was embracing Islam, I was actually reconnecting back to my true identity and just bringing everything back to its original state. So I feel like there's definitely a connection between me being African and being Muslim. And I feel like it's definitely a strong connection, and I feel like I just reconnected myself to its original format. The Ahlul Bayt are like a part of my everyday life. I would say I try to do like 500 salawats every single day. I'm a big lover of Ali and Imam Hussein. I had the pleasure of going on ziyarat back in 2018, so I was able to visit like all of the shrines of the Ahlul Bayt, and I was able to take my son Jawad with me. So I have a strong connection with the Ahlul Bayt in my household. I have something on the wall where I have all of the names of all of the different members of the Ahlul Bayt. I do do a tawassul every single Tuesday, and I try to keep these traditions within my household because I want my kids to be able to pass it down to future generations. So we make sure that we follow the Shia traditions as much as possible, make sure that we're praying in congregation inside of the household. And I would say that every single imam, I've done extensive research on their lives, and I've studied a lot about them as much as possible. And I also try to revive my bay'ah with Imam Mahdi every single day because I feel like it's really important. And one of the strongest hadiths that I've ever heard in my life is that if you die without knowing the imam of your time, then you die the death of jahiliyyah, which is ignorance. And I feel like it's really important to have that connection with the imam of your time, because you don't want to be raised up with some imam that's not the true imam, right? And I think in the Quran, if I'm not mistaken, it talks about how there's imams of guidance and there's imams of falsehood. And there's some people that may think that they're just listening to music or different things like that, but they might get so embedded into that stuff that that might become their imam that they may be raised up with on the day of judgment. So I feel like my mission is to spread the word of the Ahlul Bayt. I've done a lot of dawah on social media and things like that, and I try my best to enlighten people about Imam Mahdi because he's the imam of this time, and I do it all the time. I actually celebrated the birthday of Imam Mahdi for the 15th of Shaban, and I had a birthday cake where it said happy birthday Mahdi, and I actually put that on social media, and a lot of people were reaching out to me and they were saying happy birthday, and I said, hey, it's not my birthday, this is the birthday of the 12th imam, who's also going to come back and bring justice into the world, just like Jesus is going to come back as well. And a lot of people were receptive to that, and they got some insight about who the imam of the time is. So I feel like it's definitely an obligation, and I feel like the imams are like the best kept secret. So it's definitely a responsibility for everyone to spread the word of the Ahlul Bayt. When you look at the lineage of Abraham, one of his sons was Isaac, and then the other son was Ismail. So like the lineage of Isaac goes back to Jesus, and a lot of people know that, but they don't know that the lineage of Ismail goes to Prophet Muhammad, and then it goes to the 12th Imam. So when you really look at it, it's like the two sons of Abraham actually coming back to bring justice into the world. So there's some people that know part of the story, like everyone knows about, Isa alayhi salam, that he's going to come back and he's going to return, but not too many people really know about Imam Mahdi. So I think it's definitely something that's very vital to let everyone know about, his reappearance. And, to have this figure who's going to bring justice into the world is something that every single religion believes in. It wouldn't matter if you even talk to people who are from like Hindu religions or, Christian or whatever, they all believe in a promised Messiah that's going to return, but a lot of them have no knowledge of Imam Mahdi. So I think it's very important for them to know about him, and maybe it might soften up some people's hearts and maybe they might look more into Islam. I would say that Shiism definitely changed my life completely. Like most people that knew me from the past, that were my friends growing up, they give me so much props, I would say, for who I am today compared to who I used to be. They tell me, man, I love the way that you changed your life. You're so much of a better person. You're an inspiration. You're a role model. And they give me so much encouragement because I've completely changed my life in a total 180 compared to what it used to be. And I think it's just the love of the Ahlul Bayt. Like once you have the love of the Ahlul Bayt inside of your heart and you're rolling with the people who are on the right path, those people rub off on you, and it definitely has a profound effect. So I would say that, me being a follower of the Ahlul Bayt and being a Shia Muslim has definitely changed my life for the better. And, the ziyarat trip, I used to pray every single day, for Allah to be able to make it possible for me to go on ziyarat and visit the shrines. And I had the pleasure of visiting every single shrine that exists. And that really sealed the deal for me. And it really just brought me even closer to the Imams and the Ahlul Bayt. And it really just impacted my life for the